Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg with Cloudcast Media, and we are just so pleased to have in the studio with us today Angela Zappia. She is the Director of Development for Accessity. How you doing there, Angela?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here.
I know. I think the last time you guys were on, there was another host, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. My colleague Juliet Terman was here with somebody else last time.
Right.
She had a great time.
Exactly. Good. Joined by my colleague and business associate, Charles Parisi. He's the CEO and founder of Cloudcast Media. And I know this organization is near and dear to your heart, is it not, Charles?
It is. I'm a huge fan. There's not enough good things you can say about Accessity.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to find out right now. What's the mission of the organization?
Yeah, so we help small businesses, and we're really focused on access to capital and then pairing that with education and technical assistance. Many small businesses can have barriers to accessing capital for a variety of reasons. They might walk into their bank and just be brand new. They only have, a year or less of operations under their belt. They might have had past credit challenges. They might have cultural and language barriers. Accessity then comes in to fill that gap in access to capital and help them get started or grow.
This is your 30th year, is that correct?
Yeah, so we started in 1994. So we've been celebrating all year 30 years of impact. To date, we've almost lent out $90 million to small businesses. Wow. We help about 4,700 people annually with the technical assistance and education. So really proud of all that we're able to do in the community. We started here in San Diego and we've been here the longest, but over the years we've actually expanded to help 6 Southern California counties.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So is it just in California then, pretty much?
Yeah, Southern California. So
Southern
Imperial,
California. Okay.
Riverside,
Gotcha.
Los Angeles, Orange, San Bernardino, and San Diego counties.
Right. And so are you in charge of, development for all of the whole region?
I am, yeah. So I oversee our fundraising, grant writing, grants management, impact reporting throughout Southern California.
Right, exactly. So how many, you said you'll impact, 4,700? Is it people or businesses or both?
People.
Okay.
So that's through the educational events and the technical assistance that we provide. We do a lot of one-on-one business coaching and advising as people have questions about the access to capital piece.
Right.
And then each year we're providing about 350 loans, give or take, as well.
Right. And you focus on, entrepreneurs, women, color, immigrants in that area, but you'll work with anyone, correct? Pretty much? Yeah.
So it's open to everybody. We are a nonprofit mission-based lender. So providing that access and really contributing to the diversity and equity and inclusion within the small business community is our primary focus and driver, but anybody can come to us for help.
Right. So what qualifies someone to get a loan or funding or donations, whatever the case may be, from your organization?
It's pretty flexible. So that's our goal. And if people come in, we don't have any strict criteria around like what their credit score has to be or anything like that. So it really is case-by-case basis. And compared to a traditional bank, we're able to take into account their story, their experience, more so than traditional lenders are.
Right, exactly. But is there a threshold that you're not lending to somebody that's got $14 million in the bank, correct? Or maybe not necessarily true.
It's not that we couldn't, but our loan program only goes up to $100,000.
Okay, good.
So people outgrow us at a certain point. By and large, almost all of the businesses we serve would fall into what you'd call a micro entrepreneur. Yeah. So 2 to 3 jobs on average. A lot have annual business revenues of less than $250,000. But that's not to say we don't have a handful of folks that have over $1 million in revenue each year, or up to like 30 employees. So it just depends on their situation and what their capital needs are.
Right. Great. Charles?
Angela, like I said, when we started earlier, I love this organization. I think small business is the heartbeat of America. And the more we can invest in small companies, the better America is and will always be. But I'm realizing as I look at the sheet, Drew, you can't spell the word success and access without CCESS. So there's a lot of overlap between the two words. And so it's not just money. What else are you giving small business owners access to?
Yeah, great question. So I mentioned we do a lot of one-on-one business coaching and advising. So Juliet Tierman, we mentioned, was here last time, one of our business development officers here in San Diego. That business development position is providing a lot of really focused advising to small businesses when they have questions about access to capital. So that's one arm of it. We also do free educational events throughout the year. Those are open to the public. They're free to the community as well. So those are webinars or in-person events, and they focus on a variety of topics. So we talk about access to capital, but we also bring in education about marketing, HR, public relations, writing your business plan. We kind of vary them based on current needs for small businesses.
Right. So we're checking with our friend Angela Zappia. She is the Director of Development for Accessity. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, joined by my colleague. He is the CEO and founder of Cloudcast Media, Charles Parisi. So, with this aspect of it, you folks, want to gain funds so you can hand out funds and all that business. So you have a big campaign at the end of the year.
We do. So I love this time of year because we're all in the spirit of giving, and we're thinking about, what we're going to buy for our loved ones for the holidays. But in that spirit, we also start thinking about, how we benefit our communities as well. So end of year is always a really fun time being in development because you've got a lot of individual donors looking for ways to give to the community. So we just participated in Giving Tuesday. We're accepting donations through the end of the year, and all that goes towards helping us do this good work for small businesses.
Right. Do most of your funds come from individuals, or they come from grants? I know you're did grant writing. Does it come from foundations, big corporations, everything in between?
Yeah, definitely a mix. I do a lot of grant writing for sure. We get supported. We work very closely with banks. Like I said, our loans go up to $100,000, and as those businesses grow, they need larger access to capital opportunities.
Right.
So they work very closely with us and fund our program so that we can get people ready for bank loans. We work with other corporations, foundations. We receive government funding. So it does run the gamut.
Right. Talk a little about your, philosophy, strategy of shop small and your business marketplace.
Yeah, so it's a great time of year to be supporting small businesses, and Accessity helps make it easy. On our website, accessity.org, we have a marketplace landing page. So it's all Accessity funded businesses. We've got over 250 small businesses listed there now. And you can actually filter by the county, by the type of business. So say you want to buy coffee beans for grandpa, or you want to get, jewelry for, your sister. You can look that way and make it easy to find the type of business that you want to patronize this year.
Charles, you've been an entrepreneur since you were 25, and obviously you understand, the importance of small business. If I'm not mistaken, you probably know this number as well, Angela. 80,000 small businesses in San Diego County. And we all know that's the bread and butter, Charles, of the economy, of any local economy.
No question about it. And again, I think it's really, Drew, when I think about entrepreneurship and starting businesses, and there's a certain romance and mindset that people have when they think about entrepreneurs, but it's painful and lonely. I had this conversation with a young a female entrepreneur back in Atlanta this past week. He says, you know what? Those are about the two right words. So, but this is where the Accessities of the world can come in to make it a little less painful and a little less lonely. Talk about the ability to pick up the phone, and it's not necessarily a money conversation, like the what would you do conversation. I need a little help.
That is a great point. That's something I think about a lot. I do think that small business can be a very isolating place. And I think people do feel like they have to make things happen for themselves. You know, it's part of our culture around entrepreneurship. But it's so important to tap in your community. And the more you network and the more you utilize the community resources, the more you help yourself out. Small businesses, they start because they're the expert in their product or their service. But then you're called to wear every hat, at least starting out, right? You're trying to, be a jack of all trades. So it's so important to really make sure that you know what those community resources are. And Accessity is super collaborative. Again, we do have the educational pieces, but our real expertise is access to capital. So we're working with people like the Small Business Development Centers, SCORE, the Women's Business Center, to help small businesses meet other community-based organizations that are providing services.
Well, this is actually, Drew, this is a really important point I was going to mention. I recently provided Accessity with two potential small business entrepreneurs that might need access to capital, up and running businesses, but there's always a need for growth capital, restructuring capital, whatever the case may be. So here's what's interesting. It's kind of a chicken or the egg issue, Angela. So let me put this on the table. I recently gave two opportunities to Accessity. Neither one of them had heard of Accessity. So I think there's tremendous need out there. There's a tremendous opportunity to really grow demand. So here's the chicken or egg question. If demand really went off the charts, could you actually fund them all? Or do you really need lots more capital yourself?
We're well capitalized. We're always keeping a pulse on it, just to make sure that if demand does rise, we're ready and able to do that. But no, we've been very fortunate. We're a community development financial institution, or a CDFI, which is a designation that we have through the U.S. Department of the Treasury. So we apply for the awards. It's a very competitive process, but we've been very lucky. We actually this year received another $1.35 million, which we expect to receive and be able to start deploying within the new year. We also work with a lot of corporate and foundation partners on loan funds. And so, we've got a lot of sources of capital available to us. So we're happy that you're referring small businesses because we're ready.
Good. I'm going to keep sending them your way because I'm passionate believer in what you're doing. And again, it's not just the money. Lots of small businesses, Drew, as you know, don't survive in America. And it's easy to blame, well, I didn't have enough money. But it's not often, not just that. There's a lot of other reasons.
There's relationships, there's partnerships. It's in fact, relationships is the key. I think probably more capital in relationships than there is in really capital in some ways in that area. We come back from break, Angela. I want to talk about some of your great success stories. And again, what our listeners can do to support, those efforts as well. In this, and would want to hear more from Charles, who again has been an entrepreneur since age 25. When we return with Angela Zappia, she is the Director of Development for Accessity. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast on our 18th year, brought to you by very cool people of Mission Fed Credit Union. 6 decades of doing great things in San Diego County, from working with those people that are in need of food. So hunger issue we have in this town, and literacy and arts and everything in between. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, sponsored by Mission Fed Credit Union. Thrilled to have in the studio with us today Angela Zappia. She is the Director of Development for Accessity, joined by my colleague and business partner. He is the CEO and founder of Cloudcast Media, Charles Parisi. Charles, before we get into some of the great success stories of Accessity, you have something to ask Angela, do you not?
Well, no. So Angela, and again, obviously, we're a local media company. So our goal is to be the national leader in local media, local stories, local companies, and bring everyone together with the positivity. And again, I'm passionate as a lifelong entrepreneur. I was actually a co-founder of an entrepreneurship high school. So one of the things that we're doing here at Cloudcast, and Drew and I have been working on this for a while, is we're launching a show called Family Business San Diego. Because I think when we talk about gaps, whether it's educational gaps, wealth gaps in America, and I think there's a connection between the two. Listen, owning a home and owning a small business pretty much plugs all the wealth gaps, the asset gaps that exist, in this country. So we're going to be doing a show on family business, getting the first one going, making it survive multiple generations. And there's a lot of family-owned businesses in San Diego. There's recipes and stories to tell here. So if this is potentially of interest to you from a development standpoint, we should talk about maybe collaborating, down the road. It wouldn't cost you any money. You'd be kind of a collaborative supporter, and we might figure it all out. But if there's an interest, we'd love to have you join us at Cloudcast and creating family business.
Absolutely. I would love to participate in something like that. Accessity, has plenty of those small business examples. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I tell people all the time, yes, providing a loan to a small business owner helps them increase their economic self-sufficiency, but small business is truly one of the greatest drivers of creating wealth, building assets, and that has a generational impact.
No question about it.
Well, and, I think what's great about it is, tough to sustain anything these days, right? Exactly. And those small businesses, can certainly be sustainable, but it's all about what you talked about. Yes, we need money to turn lights on. We get it. But it's about those relationships, as Charles was referring to, and you had talked about as well, and the partnerships. And I think one of the things I know Charles is laser beamed on it, and we're happy to say that our very young associate producer, Brandon Joe, who is an entrepreneur on his own, is probably the greatest young networker that we know. Because most people, no matter what age you are, don't do a great job of networking, don't see the value of networking. Talk about how important that is, especially in the world that you deal with.
Yes, it's so important. I think we're all getting our sea legs with networking a little bit
Right.
After all those years of pandemic and staying home for the health situation. But it's incredibly important, I think, especially for small businesses. There's a lot of creativity that happens within networking, a lot of opportunities that open up. We see it all the time. We get to see a lot of fun collaborations happening. And you don't know what you don't know. And so talking to other people, it can really help you develop as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, we're going to, force our associate producer to address that question. Brandon Joe, talk about what the networking has been for you.
Networking for me has been an opportunity to kind of just take my life into my hands. And even so, like, networking is kind of just serendipity, randomness, where, you meet someone, they introduce you to someone, they introduce you to someone else, and somehow you're, working on a movie with The Rock. But there's some crazy things that can happen if you just talk to people, and you can never know if you don't take that step.
Well, see, Brand is hitting on a really important point, which I think is part of what you can teach to young entrepreneurs and business owners. He said there's a randomness to it. True. But it's not a randomness how you perform in that moment of randomness. And that's
it's not a randomness in how you got there either, because at least you cannot have luck if you don't situate yourself to be open to the luck. And I think that's so much fun, and kind of like showing up and rolling the dice and seeing what really can happen if you just hit that. I was about to make a D&D joke, 20.
Yeah. Hey, Drew, you know what? I realize I might be a little bit off of what you might have been thinking of next, although maybe not. Can we talk a little bit about the virtuous cycle of Accessity? Because here's what's pretty cool. You know, when someone makes a donation or there's a grant, you know, Angela, you mentioned you just picked up another $1.35 million. Based on the extraordinary repayment rates by their customers, it stays in perpetuity. Can you talk about the incredible payback? Because that's a salute to your small business owners that they had character to borrow that money and pay it back.
Right.
That's right. That's right. It's definitely the gift that keeps on giving when we talk about capital investments. You know, some of those we keep for 5 or 10 years, but the CDFI example that you provided, that we keep and just keep revolving it out. Once it's granted to us, we keep using it. And what's especially amazing about the CDFI fund is it aligns with our mission. So it is going to low to moderate income owned businesses, Black owned businesses, and Hispanic owned businesses. And then we get to revolve it as those small business owners repay. So it is very rewarding to be able to see that money continue to ripple through the community.
Yeah, and it's exponential on the return in this. And it's something we say all the time on our Spotlight show, and as a matter of fact, pretty much all the Cloudcast Media lineup of shows, is that you just don't know, because you just gave that loan to this group here, how they spread their wings and then dealt with this group here, and then they found out someone there, and somewhere down, 6 degrees or 2 degrees of whatever the case may be. We've been very lucky and honored on our Spotlight show over 18 years to make those types of, connections. Charles, you have a term for it. What do you call that? We have connectivity capital.
Connectivity capital is what we call it. Because again, capital comes in a variety of forms. There's the tangible stuff we all know about, but that connectivity capital, is really important. But again, going back to this issue, and that's why I'm so proud of small business owners, because the character that every time they make a loan payment or an interest payment, they're indirectly financing another startup. And it's a really cool thing. I hope they actually understand that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And not only that, but we've also had small businesses that have benefited from the program come back and be donors themselves. Mm-hmm. So really completing that circle. So not only repaying the capital, but then also helping us put on events and provide that coaching to small businesses as well through their donations.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, what's interesting about that, it's the same philosophy when you see and we always use this with food insecurity. There are people that, even they may not have a lot of money, they certainly can afford a 45-cent can of X, Y, and Z, whatever. So they've contributed as they build their wealth up. Now they are really being the contributors, of this. I tell you what we're going to do, because we definitely want to have you on as a frequent guest in Accessity. Why don't we have you come back on down the road and bring in somebody that has benefited from the loans. Bring in a couple folks in, okay? And talk about those success stories. They can speak from what it meant to them and what it's done for their business. How's that sound?
That sounds amazing. I would love to do that. And I know we've got a lot of small business owners who would be eager to talk about their experience and journey as well.
Consider that a done deal.
But we're not going to kick her out yet. I have another question. Are you cutting me off?
You're assuming I'm cutting you off. Remember what happens when you assume?
Oh, yeah, it's not a good idea.
Okay, very, very good. Fire away, more questions.
No. I got a question because Drew knows from the world of education and the world of work and college and career pathways. By the way, I think, Drew, we should probably try to make sure Accessity gets over there.
A done deal.
Okay, so here's a question for you. Because every ecosystem has its own needs. Okay, so we're realizing in the world of education, there are so many young folks that want to go into the trades. Are you finding some of your borrowers? I know you have a lot of service companies and food service and a variety of businesses. Are you finding anyone saying, hey, I want to start a construction company? Are you getting into any particular, so these verticals, whether trades or biomanufacturing?
Yeah, well, I know. So that's a really good question. We kind of serve a lot of different types of businesses. A lot of the industries that we see more often, it can also be tied to bank access to loans again. So some industries are a little riskier. So if you walk into a bank as a food business, it might be a little harder to get a loan, for example. So we do see higher concentrations within the small businesses that we're serving in industries like that. We've also seen in recent years a lot of trucking, warehousing, transportation type businesses. That was a real boom industry during the pandemic, especially because people's consumer habits had been changing. But yeah, we help construction companies, all types of businesses. And so it's really important. And I agree with that just from an educational standpoint. You need to keep all those options open for people and just make sure that they find the pathway that's best for them.
Mm-hmm. How about franchises? Do you help support franchise acquisition?
We do. Yeah. So we have helped franchise businesses as well.
That's great.
Yeah. So what Charles is alluding to is an organization near and dear to my heart, and Charles has been a great partner in it. It's called Classroom of the Future Foundation. We've been around since '97, and put on a whole variety of ceremonies and summits and all that, focusing on those careers and those paths, which there are so many and so diverse, and on this aspect of it. And one of the things we always like to talk about is when you talk about, pick a topic, cyber. Well, I'm not good at coding. Yeah, but cyber folks need marketers. They need graphic artists. They need salespeople. They need lawyers. They need everything in between. The example I use all the time, Charles has heard it a million times, when I was running community and public relations for the Union Tribune. At our heyday, we had 2,300 employees. Only 1/7 of them wrote. 6/7 of the paper did everything else besides being journalists. And so forth. And so when you think about careers and so forth and that aspect of it, there are just so many different areas that you can fall into. Do you discuss that stuff at all with some of the groups you work with?
We do. And I think the thing that comes most to mind is just really helping small business owners identify those support systems that they need. Again, you step in because you love what you make or what you provide to the community, but then you're trying to, balance your books. You're trying to do your social media, your marketing. You're trying to develop your webpage. And, you really just have to reach out and make sure that you're connecting with people who have expertise in those areas so that you're using your time wisely and putting yourself in a position to scale your business.
Hey, there's another local media. You used to be on TV a lot. You had a regular segment on television. Am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah, that's correct. KUSI is a longtime media partner of ours.
We don't mind supporting other local media companies because they do great work. Do you still have those moments with KUSI?
We do. So in their morning show, usually once a month, every other month, they'll visit a small business that Accessity has supported with one of our staff members. Juliet's been covering that a lot lately. And they get to tell their stories and just, introduce themselves to a larger audience to get some business in the door.
No, that's great. Because I was going to say, do you organize a lot of ribbon cuttings when businesses get launched and bring the community together? And because those are magical moments.
We do see a lot of small businesses that we help do those. So we are unique. Again, like I mentioned, a brand new business is hard to get funding at a bank.
Mm-hmm.
So we do see a higher percentage of the small businesses we serve being less than a year old. So about a third of the people that we help annually, which is very fun because we get to be there for those big moments when they open the doors and really get started. And so, we help people with things like tenant improvements as they get ready to get started, buy equipment. So that's one of the most gratifying moments that we get to see.
That's terrific. We're going to look forward to having you make a return appearance with some of the folks that you have, loaned money to, and now they're off and running, being successful. What else can our audience do to support Accessity?
So from our website, accessity.org, you can find that marketplace. Go out and shop small this holiday season. Small businesses, they care about your neighborhood just as much as you do. They want to see your streets clean. They want to see, your business corridors vibrant. They want to hire people locally. So it goes a long way to support those small businesses this season. And then from our website as well, you'll find a donate button right in the top right corner. Please, give whatever you can that's meaningful to you, big or small. It all goes towards this great work that we get to do with small businesses.
And what's your website?
Accessity.org.
Okay, just like it sounds. Well, just wishing you and your colleagues nothing but great success in the future, as you have been doing this for 30 years very successfully and just continue to grow. We'll look forward to your return appearance on the show with a couple of the entrepreneurs that you worked with, and we're just thrilled to have you on. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Angela Zappia, she is the Director of Development for Accessity. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the community show, the nation's longest running community podcast. We are now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, 6 decades of doing great things in San Diego County. Charles Parisi, as always, thank you for joining me on the mic. Charles is the founder and CEO of Cloudcast Media. We hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.